Hey, welcome in.
Welcome to the Arrowhead Addict podcast.
We are here coming to you live.
Let me tell you, the dopamine, it's flowing.
I am damn excited. Damn excited.
We are so excited to be joining you guys tonight.
Oh!
Well, how you doing, man? Patrick.
Will Sterling.
Yeah.
Super Bowl champion, two-time Pro Bowler, and Trent Green. Trent Green, how you doing?
Hey, what's going on, guys?
Oh, he picked it up! He picked it up! He's gonna score!
And we'll see you next week, but until then, as always, go Chiefs. A Kansas City radio host and podcaster called Patrick Mahomes fat this week, and it isn't the first time he's said something so monumentally stupid. Former Sports Radio 810 host Kevin Keitzman, seen here just before saying, "I'm not racist, but," is facing backlash across the internet after he called Mahomes fat and an embarrassment. On his weird little show, Kevin Keitzman Has Issues. You can say that again. Keitzman, who I assume was doom-scrolling Instagram while reclining in a lazy boy full of barbecue stains and regret, saw a vacation picture of Patrick Mahomes and immediately thought, if anybody should judge the body of a world-class athlete, it's me, the guy whose cardio consists of pacing while angry. Here's what he said about Mahomes, who was just enjoying the last few days of his vacation before getting back to the NFL grind. Vacation photos are popping up of Patrick Mahomes and he's fat. I'm going to say it and I'm going to tell the truth. That's why you hit the play button. He's an embarrassment. Keitzman continued, "You're a $500 million quarterback, and you made all these comments in the offseason. We're going to do our talking on the field. We got our butts kicked in the Super Bowl. We're coming back with a vengeance. Dude, you're fat. Your belly would be fat at my pool, hanging out with us, 60-year-olds. My skin is flabbier than yours. I get it. Stop. Stop with the fast food. Do a sit-up. Do something." I shouldn't have to explain to you why this commentary is ridiculous, but I'm going to do it anyway. To some degree, I understand Keitzman's plight. I work in this industry. It's a tough industry. It's hard to make money. It's hard to stand out when the internet is nothing but a hot take factory. And when you're an on-air personality, sometimes you have to play it up a little bit, right? You need to be yourself, but maybe your personality turned up a few notches. And I think that's exactly what Keitzman is trying to do. The problem is, it seems like he's already starting from asshole and turning up the volume to giant asshole. And we know this. We know who Kevin Keitzman is. If you forgot he existed, despite his long tenure on the KC airwaves, I wouldn't blame you if you did. But if you weren't able to erase his name from your mind, let me refresh you on why he had to go start his own podcast with his tail between his legs in the first place. Here's what he had to say about Andy Reid back in 2019, a comment that got Keitzman to mutually agree to part ways with his radio job at 810. "Andy Reid does not have a great record fixing players. He doesn't. Discipline is not his thing. It did not work out particularly well in his family life, and that needs to be added to this as we're talking about the Chiefs." Does it? Does it really? He wasn't great at that either. He had a lot of things go bad on him, family and players. He is not good at fixing people. He is not good at discipline. That is not his strength. His strength is designing football plays. Now, Keitzman claims he wasn't referencing Reid's son Garrett, who tragically died in 2012, but his words were clear, and his non-apology made it even worse. His idiotic comments about Andy Reid, widely considered not just one of the best football coaches ever, but one of the nicest and most beloved guys in the NFL, were widely criticized. But nobody put it better than ESPN's Louis Riddick on Twitter. He said, "Whoever this clown is that said this, you're trash for referencing Andy Reid and his family and his son. You don't fix people, dumbass. To speak about another man's child is out of bounds, embarrassing what people will do to try to be relevant." Louis is 100% right. There are a million ways to keep yourself relevant in the sports talk game without turning yourself into great value Skip Bayless, especially in a day and age when Skip Bayless has turned into great value Skip Bayless. It's okay to criticize a player. Fans do it. Lord knows we do it here on the podcast and on our websites all the time. I don't think it's out of bounds to question a player's fitness if you're doing it as part of your evaluation of how they're performing on the field. This is athletics, after all. There is, however, a line. These are human beings we're covering, after all. That means being fair and treating the people you cover with respect. Now, let's set aside the fact that Mahomes isn't out of shape, that he trains year-round with Bobby Stroop and routinely outruns NFL defenders on the field. Keitzman isn't just wrong, he's loud and wrong. But even worse, he made it personal. Calling Patrick Mahomes fat? Calling him an embarrassment? Talking about one of the world's most successful athletes in a super condescending manner. I don't care what multiverse you believe in. There isn't a single timeline where Kevin Keitzman has the balls to say what he said to Patrick Mahomes' face. And even if he did, Patrick Mahomes is such a fantastic human being. He is so many levels above whatever pond scum is the closest representation of Keitzman that he would probably walk away and not even give Keitzman the beating he'd deserve. They should build a statue of Patrick Mahomes outside of Arrowhead right now. Forget waiting until he retires. After a 50-year Super Bowl drought, Mahomes has ushered in the greatest era of Chiefs football ever, creating a dynasty that seems far from finished. And he's done it by being a tremendous class act. He's a spectacular representation of the Chiefs, of the National Football League, of Kansas City. He's a terrific role model for kids to look up to. He leads, he takes accountability, he doesn't throw his teammates under the bus. Kevin Keitzman is a miserable person, pumping more misery out into the airwaves. And honestly, I feel bad for anybody that listens to his drivel on a regular basis because they're probably miserable too. Why else would any self-respecting Chiefs fan stand by and nod while this clown talks about Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes the way that Kevin Keitzman has? The good news is, I haven't heard or thought about Kevin Keitzman since he made the comments about Andy Reid in 2019. And while I'd prefer to never have to think about or hear from Keitzman again, if he's going to crawl out of his bridge only once every 6 years, I guess that's close enough. All right, let's get on with the show. And we're here. It's the Arrowhead Addict podcast. Patrick Allen, Adam Best. A rare cold open for the show, Adam. I do them on occasion when I got something to say, when I want to fire off about something. And this Keitzman thing, I tweeted about this last night. It's been bugging me all week. And I'm busy. I got a busy job here at Fansided. It's not just doing the podcast. And so I wanted to do this immediately, but it just wasn't in the cards. But it allowed me to kind of have days and days to marinate and think about this guy and the stupid crap that he said and why it's stupid. And so there you go. Kevin Keitzman's an idiot. He's a complete idiot. We already knew this, and now he's still being an idiot. And I wanted to get your take on everything, on the rant, on Keitzman, on these absurd comments. I was showing pictures, by the way, of Patrick Mahomes, the same pictures that Keitzman was referencing. I was showing pictures of him on the yacht or whatever to my wife last night. And I was like, this is a picture where he called him fat. And my wife is like, my wife is like, you could see his abs. Like, what is this guy talking about? He's got like a little bit of belly fat, maybe, I guess. All right. Anyway, I got to hear you weigh in on this whole thing.
I'll get to the fitness of Patrick Mahomes here in a second, but I want to start with Kevin Keitzman. I think what his problem is, that's what it says here on the show sheet, is that this is the most successful era in Chiefs history. And Arrowhead Addict has never been stronger. We've seen KC Sports Network pop up. We've seen How About Those Chiefs popped up. Kingdoms, Queens, Arrowhead Prize still going strong. You know, a ton of people making names for themselves on the radio. And he is not part of this thing. He was basically dismissed from being part of the sports thrill ride of a lifetime. And I think he's sour about it. I think he needs attention, has been kind of missing the spotlight there in Kansas City. And this was a big neon flashing, pay attention to me sign. And brother, be careful what you wish for. My real exception to this, if you want to question his fitness, if you want to call him fat or chubby or fat shame him or whatever, fine. To call Patrick Mahomes an embarrassment, my man, I was born in Kansas City. Patrick Mahomes might be the least embarrassing thing in the history of that area. He might make me more proud to be an OG Kansas Cityan than anything else. I mean, there's plenty of things to be proud of, but I think he is the embodiment of Kansas City, like the ideals of Kansas City, how friendly people are, how you can go the work ethic, you can go on and on and on. He embodies what we all want to be and the level of greatness in our own lives we all want to reach. And the way he carries himself without any hubris, with such humility. I mean, you mentioned him not throwing his teammates under the bus. He does this to a fault. I mean, he takes way too much. He sees something that's not his fault at all. He'll put it on his shoulders to ease the burden on everybody else in that building, from Travis Kelce down to the ball boy. He's putting it all on his shoulders. And this is just ridiculous. It's July 4th. Like, the guy has played, I did the math yesterday, over the past 7 seasons, Patrick Mahomes and these Chiefs have played a full season's worth of games more than the median team. If anybody deserves to take the 4th of July off and maybe carry around a little extra weight, have some beers, have some hot dogs, it is Patrick Mahomes. How many videos of him and Bobby training do we have to see? How many times do we have to see him outrun who's chasing him? You know, the joke about Patrick Mahomes is, even though he runs like he's holding a full cup of beer, he's always a tenth of a second faster than whoever's chasing him. Why is this a concern? Why is this a concern? Okay, now to the fitness real quick. Ryan Leaf was probably a better athlete than Peyton Manning. Like, this is not a position about who's the better athlete. There are a lot of things that go into this. I mean, Lamar Jackson, Jaden Daniels, Josh Allen. I mean, obviously, athleticism is part of this. And Patrick is a good athlete. I mean, he could have been a professional baseball player, for Pete's sake, right? But look at Will Levis. He looks like a bodybuilder, but he has probably the most abysmal decision-making when he's pressured in the entire National Football League. And Patrick Mahomes, he has the best decision-making. You apply pressure to him, he's like a diamond. He only gets better. That has nothing to do with his waistline. And in fact, I think if you are, so he's about 6'2", 225. That's about, he might be a little bit bigger than Aaron Rodgers, but they're pretty close in size. I don't want him any smaller than this. This is about durability, this position. And if you get too light, you take a beating. We've seen that we've seen guys like Tua and Lamar Jackson and a bunch of quarterbacks intentionally put on weight because they can't stay on the field, because they are under tremendous duress at all times. I mean, think about the guys that you're having fall on. You think about Chris Jones. I know he's on the same team, but think about Chris Jones grabbing you and, throwing you down and landing on top of you. You've got to be able to withstand that kind of beating. So this is just nonsense. We've already done this with Travis Kelce online this summer about, like, they're two of the greatest players of all time. I don't want to hear about, their stomachs. Okay. They don't need to look like Love Island contestants. They just need to win, and they're doing it.
You're right. Will Levis is shredded and he sucks. He's not good. By NFL standards, incredible athlete, probably a great person. Biermer says in the chat, and I got this message from a couple people on Twitter last night. Or like, you can't be talking about Keitzman seriously. He's not worth talking about. Next. I get it. Like, people like that, you just want to tune out. And I'll tell you the same response that I gave to somebody last night on Twitter. Why give Kevin Keitzman the oxygen, right? That's what he wants. Blah, 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 blah. Bullies have to be held to account. Period. It's not that they matter, holding them to account, but like, bad guys need to face the consequences of their actions. And whether it's breaking the law or whether it is being an asshole, and being an asshole online and talking about somebody that I don't know Patrick Mahomes personally, but like I have my career because of the Kansas City Chiefs. I owe a lot to the city of Kansas City, which I was not born in, where I have a ton of friends. I might have more friends in Kansas City than I have in Chicago. And what we do the same thing here on this show that Kevin Keitzman does. We're doing sports talk. So I care about our industry and what we're trying to do here as well. And when you have a clown like Kevin Keitzman doing the things that he does, and to some people that say, well, he just wants attention. And you even alluded to this. So he's saying this because I actually am not giving him that much credit. I don't think that he's that smart. I think that he just sucks, right? I think he just fires off all the time. He doesn't think things through, and he's not talented enough to understand that you can be entertaining on the radio without being a dick. And there are a lot of people who, and they're successful, right? Like there's all these political grifters on both sides of the aisle, and they say outrageous crap. And there's people who run websites who just make flat out lies. And there's a way to be entertaining, interesting, provide analysis without crossing the line and saying, just like, you don't need to say Patrick Mahomes is an embarrassment. Do you know who the embarrassment here is? Kevin Keitzman. Bro, you're the embarrassment. You got run out of 810 because you
his own company.
Control your mouth. Right. Yeah.
He's a part owner.
Investor. Like, that's how bad, because the people of Kansas City, and this is why I said what I said at the end of my rant about feeling bad for the people that listen to the Kevin Keitzman show, and they crawled out like all these people. I guess he's like MAGA or whatever. And like, I don't care who people voted for. I don't judge people just by who they voted for. And I don't automatically hate people. Like, but all these guys, like because I said, hey, you shouldn't have said this about Patrick Mahomes, that sucks. They were like, you're just a snowflake. You don't like Keitzman because Keitzman likes Trump. I had no idea that Keitzman, like, he talks. I don't listen to his stupid show. I know he talks about politics on it. I learned that when I went and I looked at his tagline and stuff. But you have these people who are like, they're like, because they like his political point of view, then they're out there caping. They're Chiefs fans. They're caping for Kevin Keitzman because they have against Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid because they have the same political beliefs that he does. Man, I don't give a shit. Like, no way, man. I'm standing with my people. Like, and Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid are my people. If Patrick Mahomes is a Trump voter or he's a liberal or whatever, I don't care. Like, I appreciate Patrick Mahomes for the player he is on the field. And so, you know, people like Keitzman need to be held to account for being assholes. And that's what we're going to do on this show. If we see somebody, whether you think they deserve the oxygen or not, if they've got a platform and they're out there talking crap about the Chiefs, this is called the Arrowhead Addict podcast. We're just not going to ignore it. We're going to take them to task. We're going to say what we think. And it is what it is. And that guy, like I said, I hope he crawls back under his bridge. And if we only have to hear or see from him when he says something monumentally stupid once every 6 years, maybe he stretches the next one out to 10 years, that'd be fine. That'd be fine with me. It's just insane, man. And it's just really, it's just depressing because there are so many talented people out there. Like Louis Riddick, who I mentioned, you know, calling him out for his comments on Andy Reid back in 2019. Louis Riddick is one of my absolute favorite analysts in all of the NFL. I love listening to him talk about football. I think he makes excellent points. I think he's really interesting. I don't think he says things to be sensational for the sake of being sensational. And he's interesting. And you also can have sensational takes or hot takes. That's fine. I don't have a problem with that. Without being so over the top and insane like Skip Bayless, who's just trying to provoke people. I actually think Nick Wright is a pretty good example of this. Like, he's himself turned up to 11 and he definitely takes positions, but I don't think he takes he doesn't say the crap that Skip Bayless says where he attacks people personally. And he's just a weirdo. Skip Bayless is a weirdo. His own brother doesn't even like him, I don't think. Did you know that he's Rick Bayless's brother, the chef? Did you know that?
I don't even know who Rick Bayless is, but
Rick Bayless is big time, like Mexican food chef. He's got restaurants all over the place. He's been on those shows. They're brothers, which is kind of crazy that you have these two like uber successful people, and just one of them is a lunatic, and the other one's like seems like a really super nice guy. And
I think aren't Bill Burr and Billy Corrigan brothers? It turns out, like,
I don't know, maybe. I saw the stuff on the podcast where they were talking about it. It's a little tenuous, but listen, enough of Kevin Keitzman. Patrick Mahomes is not out of shape. He's not fat. I'm fat. You want to see a gut? I'll stand up. And I do that because, as you were saying about Patrick Mahomes, it's good to have a little extra padding. I'm not a professional football player, but what if somebody randomly tackles me? I don't want to break a rib. So, it's always be prepared, folks out there. It's very important.
And lastly, you can criticize players. You can criticize Andy Reid. We do it all the time, but why can't this guy do this without making it personal, without crossing the line? It seems like it's intentional. And in this particular instance, it just seems entitled. Like, old guy puts himself above young football player and is like, hey, I can put on as much weight as I want, but I don't know if he thinks he owns Mahomes or the city owns him or whatever, but that's not the way it works, man.
Yeah, he's not skilled enough to produce an entertaining show without going over the line. Like, that's what it is, right? And that's why he doesn't have a job and he's running his own podcast. And maybe people listen to it and they like his political stuff and maybe they like his other takes. But like, when it comes to talking sports, he's old, he's washed up, he's more than yesterday's news. And hopefully we don't hear from him again for a really long time. All right, let's get into some more actual Chiefs talk here. Adam, I want to talk to you about Patrick Mahomes' 2025 mindset. He was on the Kay Adams show. She's a good friend of ours here at Fanside, has been actually a really awesome supporter of our yearly event. That used to be called the Fandom 250, is now called the Fanside Fandoms of the Year. Did a segment about one of our winners for that on Good Morning Football. She's fantastic. I think Kay's, and she's been on the show multiple times. She's one of the most relaxed interviewers I've ever seen. I always appreciated that about her on Good Morning Football. She'd have her cup of coffee and like, you're on TV in front of millions of people, and she's just like in her element. And I think it makes her a really good interview. So she sat down with Patrick Mahomes. He talked a lot about different things, but one of the things was all the trash talk everyone's talking about the Chiefs this year, Adam. The Chargers are going to win the division for the 50th time in a row, and Patrick Mahomes isn't the best quarterback in the NFL anymore because he doesn't have gaudy stats. Forget the fact that he goes to the Super Bowl every year. You don't put up gaudy stats. You're getting there on luck, apparently. All the stuff. And Patrick Mahomes said, I had to sit back and listen to people talk. And I'm like, let's just play football and handle it out there. And that's how he's wired. There's also been some of the stuff, right? Like, he cut his hair. He's like trying to refocus. What's your take on his mentality heading into the season? Do you think it matters? Is it just like off-season talk, or is he locking in a different way? And is he, as a professional athlete, is somebody who is obviously incredibly driven, because he wouldn't be able to reach the successful heights that he has if he wasn't. Anybody can have complacency creep in a little bit, right? You go to the Super Bowl every year. You assume that you're going to win. You pull out all these close games during the year. And then you go to that game against the Philadelphia Eagles and you get smacked in the mouth, and they keep smacking you over and over and over again until it's over. What do you make of what he's been saying? Do you think it's going to have an actual impact on the way he refocuses for the season, or is it just off-season talk?
It's mostly just off-season talk. However, he's a human being, right? And he went from, I don't know, relatively anonymous when he was at Texas Tech, in the general public's point of view, to now being a household name your non-football friend knows about. So that has been a huge life adjustment for him over the past 7 years. Like I said earlier, they've played a season more of football than your average team. Also, again, he's a human being. He's had 3 children in this stanza. So and not only that, he's adjusted to losing his tackles multiple times. He's had different wide receiver ones almost every year, including Tyreek Hill leaving. Travis Kelce, his best friend and most dependable teammate, is kind of sunsetting a little bit. Hopefully he has a little bit of resurgence this year, but there's just been a lot of changes. And meanwhile, he is the face of the league. He has taken the baton from Tom Brady and become the face of not only the most important sport in the country, I think the most important and influential entertainment brand in the United States. There is just a monumental amount of weight on his shoulders. That's why I like these pot shots from someone like Kevin Keitzman are just completely unnecessary. But the one thing I do not worry about with Patrick Mahomes is motivation. He is intrinsically motivated. He wakes up in the morning and he wants to be great. That is just who he is. I don't think he needs bulletin board material or trash talk to get him fired up. I don't think it hurts. I think it gives him a little bit of, when he's on that last drill or last set, it might help give him, a little extra push there, but he doesn't need that because he's just a self-motivated human being like very few are. He's got that kind of like Michael Jordan gene that very few of us are blessed with or cursed with, however you want to look at it. But that's just who he is. But I love to hear that he's trying to have fun again. I love to hear that they're trying to open up the offense because I think the way they've asked him to play with all these different number one receivers and the revolving door at tackle and the 5 yards and a cloud of dust style, it's basically asking Patrick Mahomes to be perfect. It's especially asking him to be perfect closing out games, which he has done. He has more game-winning drives by far than anyone else during his time in the league. His winning percentage in those situations is astronomical, better than any player ever. But I think at this point, Brett Veach and Andy Reid might be asking a little much of him. And some of that was due to injuries, right? Rashee Rice, Hollywood Brown. They probably weren't expecting Juwan Taylor to be what he's become, given the contract they handed out. But yeah, it doesn't seem like it's very fun being him on the field lately. So I'm hoping they can open things up for him and find maybe a kind of maybe get away from the RPOs and the screens and the dink and dunk a little bit, start opening up that vertical game, let Patrick Mahomes loose again. Because the reason we drafted him was because Alex Smith couldn't let loose enough. And I've said this before, but we're kind of like turning him slowly into Alex Smith. And I just think we need to take the training wheels off or whatever.
Yeah, I think, look, there are times when I feel like Patrick is a little too loose with the football, or maybe loses focus a little bit. And I think it's a little bit amplified by the fact that the team around him has not been nearly as good the last few years as we saw early in his career. And so it magnifies when he makes those mistakes. He has less room for error. And also our expectations for Patrick have changed from 2018 when we're just like, holy crap, this is the most amazing thing I've ever seen, to we expect him to be perfect all the time. And because we know he's one of the greatest quarterbacks ever, if not the greatest quarterback ever. And so when you see him miss a wide open guy or deal with pressure poorly or throw a bad interception, he threw a bad interception last year and then he went and tried to make a tackle and ended up taking out Rashee Rice. Like, it is the worst possible outcome. Shit happens. You know what I mean? They still went to the Super Bowl, but like that really could have, that torpedoed a lot of their season. This is a team that hasn't really had an offensive identity since his last year winning the MVP after Tyreek was traded. And it has been a revolving door at wide receiver, poor play from the offensive skill position players for the most part. And so I think last year we were heading into a season where they were going to have an identity, and then just everything went to hell. Travis Kelce got a little bit older. You lose Rashee Rice, Hollywood Brown, who you were counting on isn't there. You got a rookie out there. I mean, it's amazing they did what they did. So I think if the offensive pieces stay healthy, they lost Isaiah Pacheco. I don't know if he'll ever be the same. We'll see. But they're coming in with, knock on wood, a full deck of offensive skill position players this year with an exciting new young left tackle, all of these things that they faced last year, and they still got to the Super Bowl. That should scare the crap out of everybody. And so I do think for Patrick, one of the things that he said in the Kay Adams interview, which I thought was really interesting, was, that he felt like for a key to success for them, they need to have fun again. He felt like that last year the team wanted to win every game because they were expected to. And I think the three-peat stuff factored into that. It's a lot of pressure, even for pro athletes, to do what they're trying to do. And they always pull it out. And I think that could lead to a little bit of complacency. Not that they took the Eagles lightly, but it's just one of those things where you always expect to do well. If you're always really good at something, and then all of a sudden you get hit in the mouth and you get staggered, and it's like you start pressing, like, hold on, like this can't be happening. You know what I mean? And I think that's part of what happened to them in that Super Bowl. I mean, they got outplayed, but they shouldn't have gotten outplayed that badly. Like, they were in the Super Bowl. They beat a really good Bills team to get to the Super Bowl. They weren't there by accident. They play that game a bunch of different times. It probably doesn't go that way. They might lose more often than they win it because the Eagles were unbelievable, but it's not a blowout like that. And so I do think mentality is important. And I think losing can be a good thing for them. Now they're the underdog again. Now they're not trying to three-peat. They don't have that on their shoulders, so they can go into this season. And the Eagles kind of had that last year, didn't they, Adam? People were talking about firing Nick Sirianni midseason. They're saying Jalen Hurts wasn't good enough, and it all came together. And how many times have we seen that with Chiefs teams that have started slow with Andy Reid, or they're figuring things out and then they finish strong and then they go on the Super Bowl run? So I think there's a little bit more than just offseason talk there. I just think that the mentality is going to be a little bit different for this team. They have something to prove again, and I think that's going to serve them well in terms of focus throughout the course of the season.
I think a lot of it comes down to how the two team seasons went, because you had the Eagles, two new coordinators, right? One on both sides of the ball, two new cornerbacks. Jalen Carter hadn't really blossomed yet. Jalen Hurts was struggling throwing the football. Then he got hurt at the end of the season briefly, and things really came together for them there at the end of the playoffs. That in those last two games, even with the Rams, they still hadn't totally found themselves in the second round. Meanwhile, the book was out on the Chiefs. They're going to try to play perfect mistake-free football and grind out long drives. And then with the clutch combination of Patrick Mahomes, Chris Jones, and their two play callers, they're just going to try to out-clutch you in the final minutes of the game. The problem with that is you got to get to the final minutes of the game, and you got to keep the score close. So my biggest worry with that game was always the Eagles coming in, building a lead, and the Chiefs just not having enough practice coming back. Like they used to have that gear where, I mean, we saw it. They were down 24-0 against the Texans. We saw it in both Super Bowls. I mean, all the other Super Bowls they won. But they have just lost that gear. And I think they just need to get away from being so obsessive about being perfect and mistake-free and taking what the defense has given them. Sometimes you just have to say, fuck it, we're better than you. I'm throwing the ball 60 yards because I believe in Hollywood Brown's speed or Xavier Worthy's speed, and I believe in my arm, and I believe in our play calling, and we're just going to take some chances out there. I think they got a little uptight, and it showed. Yeah. And you're totally right. Nobody had ever walked in to a third Super Bowl in a row, having won the first two, with a chance to three-peat. Nobody had ever carried that burden before. These Chiefs carried that burden. I think it was very heavy. And now that they're like freed from that burden, I think they can be looser. I think they can, maybe we're entering Mahomes 3.0 even. We've got the new haircut, right?
Yep.
So the other thing I want to mention that drives me crazy is when all these general NFL media analysts talk about the quarterback position. Some of them I like and respect and have great points. They consistently talk about the supporting cast. And I was listening, I'm not going to say who they are, but I was listening to a podcast last night, and they had Lamar 1, Josh Allen 2, Patrick Mahomes 3, based on recent sample size. And they mentioned everything. You know what they failed to mention? They didn't mention Derrick Henry. They didn't mention James Cook. They didn't mention the Chiefs having arguably the most pedestrian running game in the league last year. couldn't generate an explosive run if our lives depended on it, right?
Nope.
So that is another thing I'm very hopeful between. They have a few cracks at this. They have Isaiah Pacheco. Hopefully he's healthy again. They have Elijah Mitchell. I'll go into this more tomorrow, but Elijah Mitchell, people are like, oh, there's no way he's going to stay healthy. You know what? It's not just Jerick McKinnon. If you go back and look at Jerick McKinnon, 49ers to Chiefs splits, he was much more healthy in Kansas City. But throw that out. Look at Raheem Mostert in San Francisco to Miami. That San Francisco system, the way Shanahan uses those running backs and expects them to hit the hole with reckless abandon, there's just something about it that chews them up and spits them out. So I have high hopes for Elijah Mitchell. And then there's Brashard Smith. So they did some things. And also, we've seen in the past the Chiefs in the regular season, at the end of the preseason, they have added running backs in the past. So I think they're going to keep trying to solve this problem. And that's the other thing that I think if we can give Mahomes a little bit of a running game to make defenses play him more honest, he might be able to lighten up and have some fun again.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's move on to Travis Kelce, probably heading into his goodbye tour. Andy Reid talked a little bit about, being ready to limit Travis Kelce's snaps a little bit. He played, I think, the most snaps of his career last year, again, out of necessity. And you saw the results. He looked a little bit slower. I want to ask you, do you think that limiting his snaps is the key to getting the vintage performances from Kelce when it matters? And do you think consistent greatness is now off the table for him?
I don't want to put anything past someone as bright and talented and as committed as Travis Kelce. I also think I pushed back on blaming his relationship with Taylor Swift and all the other responsibilities he's taken on off the field. But he has kind of overnight in these past 2 years become arguably the most famous athlete in America, right? And like I said with Patrick Mahomes, this is a burden. This is something he carries on his shoulders. Now I know these are choices he's made, and this is the cost of greatness, and this is the cost of fame. But it's an adjustment period for him. And I think one of the things I'm reading between the lines you're hearing is I think he's adjusting to the newfound fame and with him, not just with Taylor, but his podcast is huge. He's got this side hustle entertainment career that looks like it's ready to explode. And it sounds like he's very focused on football right now and giving that, they've got the last dance kind of mentality that the Bulls had when they made that last run. And I think that's exciting, but load maintenance, I would like to see his snaps. They have Noah Gray. They have a plethora of weapons. Mahomes and Andy Reid like to spread the ball around anyway. I would like to see him out there about half the time. If he needs an occasional game off, like in the past, he's gutted through injuries and played. I don't want to see him do that. If he's 70%, sit him. You know what I mean? Really, all that. I mean, you could put Travis Kelce on layaway the entire season and crack him out of the box for the opening round of the playoffs. I think he'd be fine. He's played so much football, and right now he is not beating you with his legs. He's beating you with his mind. You know what I mean? He's beating you with his instinct. He's beating you with the rapport he has with his quarterback and the expertise and knowledge he's compiled over a decade plus in this league. So I think they really need to manage his minutes and his miles and make sure he's 100%. And that is a reason to fight for the bye, because he did come out of that bye week against the Houston Texans last year and in their opening playoff game looking incredible. And then the next week, so I don't know, it may be one of these pendulums where 1 week you get vintage Travis and the next week you get old man Travis.
Yeah, I think, look, if he said he needed to be in a little bit better shape, if he's coming in a little bit better shape, that's one thing. But the other thing too is the amount of attention he was getting. He's the only threat out there for most of the season last year, and he's older. So I do think that consistent greatness is possible. I do think it's important to limit his snaps so that he can do that. So he doesn't take, I don't think it's probably going to be an issue of fitness. I mean, he's not like actually an old man. He might be old by NFL standards, but like he can go out there and probably run all day. It's a matter of the wear and tear his body takes, the pain that he's dealing with, so he can be sharp and be focused and make the biggest impact he can in the plays that he's out there. And they have enough personnel to train in and out, to bring in and out, to put him in packages where they can feature him and where teams have to worry about them. And then they got to worry about Worthy, and then they got to worry about Rice, and they got to worry about Hollywood Brown. That's a good problem for the Chiefs to have. And I have said it on the show. I'm not going to change it now. I think he's going to get 1,000 yards. Even if he has diminished snaps, I think he's going to do it. We'll see. I could be wrong, but he wasn't that far off. He didn't need that many more to get there last year. Let's real quick, before we get to our movie talk, Jason Kelce on the New Heights podcast had praise for Josh Simmons. They had Matt Nagy on the show, and here's what he said. And this is a Hall of Fame offensive lineman, by the way, that's saying this. He said, it was speaking about Simmons, it was flashes of like Jason Peters, Trent Williams movement and bending and redirecting when he was looking at the tape on Simmons. He had said that Simmons was the best tackle prospect in the draft and on his opinion, for the injury. How jacked up does that get you for what Josh Simmons, if he's healthy, might be able to come in and do right away for the Chiefs?
Whew, it blows my hair back, man. I think we're getting potentially a top 5 pick at pick 31. Now, there is risk, but if you think about Rick Burkholder and this training staff and this medical staff, not only keeping guys on the field, but like they're the ones that signed off on Trey Smith and drafting Trey Smith. Rashee Rice had a foot problem that caused his draft status to slip a little bit. They cleared him. Juju Smith-Schuster, how the hell have they kept him on the field? Nobody else can do it, right? So I trust this training staff, and it might look like one of these things here in 3 or 4 years. I don't want to like say Randy Moss, but like a Randy Moss type deal where the rest of the league just reflects back upon it and says, how the hell did we let this team get him? How the hell did the entire league basically passed on him except for the Eagles. And they're probably the one team, even though they have 2 tackles, that would have said, okay, if you're going to give us free Josh Simmons, we're going to take free Josh Simmons. But I'm really excited because if we can stop, we've mentioned it multiple times, the revolving door, the offensive tackle roulette game that the Chiefs have been locked into. It is the thing that doesn't get mentioned enough is if you're Brett Veach and Andy Reid, when you are drafting 29, 30, 31, 32 every single year, and you have an owner that I won't call him cheap, but he is a bit more frugal than some of your competitors. And then you have some huge contracts, and these guys don't hit free agency. How are you supposed to find a tackle? It is not an easy thing to do. It has been a challenging thing to do, especially when both of their mainstay tackles got hurt in like one fell swoop. I think they could probably anticipated we'll probably at some point go into an offseason where we don't have Mitchell Schwartz or we don't have Eric Fisher, but to be in a situation where they had neither of them, it's been tough. I think like looking back, Orlando Brown Jr., maybe they should have just kept him, but if letting him go leads to Josh Simmons being the guy that Mahomes can be with for the next 10 years. And every time he looks that left side of the line before he hikes the ball, he gets, a relieved sensation, like comes over him and he just feels relaxed. I mean, that is the best gift to a franchise quarterback you could possibly give them. So let's hope that we found that. But like the early signs and gossip is glowing, and I couldn't be more excited.
I'm jacked up, man. We need it. It could be a franchise-altering move if it works out. By the way, you mentioned Clark Hunt and the spending and all that, and I just want to take a minute here on the podcast. I know that the Hunt family lost a relative, I believe a cousin of Gracie Hunt, down there in the horrible floodings down there in Texas. I believe her name was Janie Hunt. who I think was at an all girls camp. And we actually found this news out. My family, my brother-in-law's very good friend, best friend, lost his niece in that same flood in that camp. 8-year-old girls. It was a horrible situation. I just wanted to say our thoughts go out to the Hunt family and to all of the families who lost loved ones in that just really terrifying and scary flood. I think I read that the river rose some insane amount, like 26 or 28 feet in 45 minutes. It's just an awful tragedy. And I just wanted to give our condolences and thoughts to all of those people who down there in Texas who were affected, and wish them peace. All right, everybody. That's the end of the Chiefs talk for today. We do have a tradition here at the end of the show, Paddy's Power Rankings. When Adam hosts with me, we talk movies, and we rank our 3 favorite films from a certain year. Usually we find some sort of, Chiefs connection to the year. And since we talked Travis Kelce today, we decided to do the year 2016, which is the first year that Travis Kelce had a 1,000-yard season. It's also 3 years before Kevin Keitzman got canned from his own company for running his mouth. So I just maybe we'll do 2019 next, but let's do 2016. An interesting year in movies. Not one of my favorite years in movies, but there are some really interesting films that came out. Why don't you kick us off, Adam?
A couple honorable mentions, and it seems like Korean films are going to be a little bit of a theme this year, South Korean films. The Wailing, it is not like a slasher horror film, but a deeply unsettling, maybe the most scary movie I've ever watched in my life. I mean, honestly, it is terrifying. It got under my skin in a way no movie. I mean, maybe The Shining when I was little, but that's it. So that The Handmaiden by Park Chan-wook is the guy that did Old Boy is this year too. I won't go into spoiler territory, but another Korean film might show up in this list, just maybe. And Everybody Wants Some is my other honorable mention, and that is Richard Linklater. It's kind of like a college baseball movie that's a spiritual successor to Dazed and Confused. That's just like, I want him to keep making these movies because they couldn't be more fun. But my number 3 is a movie that, some people might not have heard of. It's called Tony Erdmann. It's a long German comedy, but it is hilarious in a I don't know, deeply human way. It is hard to put my finger on what is so unique and special about this movie. But one of the things that's so special about it is Sandra Hüller, who was in both Anatomy of a Fall and Zone of Interest, and is now going to be the biggest German import since, I don't know, Christoph Waltz or Dirk Nowitzki. She's about to get a Ryan Gosling movie. She was in both those movies a couple years ago that were Academy nominated. She just gives the performance of a lifetime. And it's just a one of a kind movie. I recommend sitting through it once just to kind of expand your cinematic horizons maybe. And you just might laugh a lot, feel a lot, and find a new favorite.
Love it. Yeah. Some interesting films on the list. I haven't seen The Wailing, and that sounds right up my alley, so I'm going to have to check that one out as well. Honorable mention for me, the film Green Room, which stars the fantastic Patrick Stewart. If you like thrillers / horror, this is a violent movie, but it's basically about this band that gets trapped in this club, basically owned by a bunch of white supremacists, and it's like a thrill ride. I mean, it is nonstop. It's a super good watch if you're not too squeamish, because it is pretty violent. So you want to check that out. And then I had to put Captain America: Civil War. I like most people are probably a little bit superheroed out, but the execution of that first set of Marvel movies was just good. I mean, she had such winning cast, good characters. It was very well thought out, and Captain America: Civil War is a really fun movie. I think I don't know why it wasn't just an Avengers movie, why it's like technically Captain America, but whatever. They did what they did. Anyway,
they introduced Spider-Man and Black Panther in that movie. It really should have been an Avengers movie.
Yeah, absolutely. But number 3 for me on this one is, as you alluded to, another Korean film, Train to Busan, which was released on my birthday at Cannes in 2016. So I'm, along with having a little bit of superhero fatigue, I'm a little bit like, I stopped watching The Last of Us. Like, I'm just kind of done with the zombie post-apocalyptic movies, The Walking Dead, all that stuff. Like, I'm just over it. It's been so saturated, and I haven't seen anybody tread like too much new ground recently. But this movie is really just terrific. It has a lot of the things that you would expect in this type of movie, but think about it as like Speed, but with zombies. A lot of this movie takes place on a plane. The zombie infection gets on the plane, but the storytelling is really good. The direction is good, and the performances are really fantastic. It's very touching and heartbreaking in scenes. And so if you're a fan of the genre and you haven't seen Train to Busan, it's a must watch. I prefer watching movies in English. I just do. It takes a certain level of focus because I don't speak other languages. So you can't be messing around on your phone and watch a foreign film. You've got to be watching the subtitles. You're not going to know what's going on. It's worth the work if that's something that you don't do a lot of. There's a lot of really great films out there that aren't in English, and this is one of them. If you like the horror genre, check out Train to Busan.
I love foreign films, but I get it. Like, if I'm too tired at night, if I'm a little sleepier than usual, and I mean, it doesn't matter what time it is, I won't put one on just because you got to read. But that movie is incredible. It is World War Z meets Speed. And then Green Room, 100% my stamp of approval. Definitely watch that one. Number 2 for me, Hell or High Water, with Chris Pine and Ben Foster and Jeff Bridges. Just like the quintessential modern Western. I love it. Taylor Sheridan wrote the script, of course, the big Yellowstone guy now. It's just phenomenal. And I think it, like, a lot of you guys know that watch this segment. I love Westerns, but a lot of them feel distant, right? And this one, I mean, it is really tied to the economics and the working class strife of the 21st century. So I think it's just extremely accessible. It's deep, but it's fun. It's intense, but it's not something that will leave you like rocked. And I keep going back to it every couple of years, and it always holds up. So that's my number 2.
I've not seen this one, and the cast is all people that I love. So I'm gonna have to fire it up, and I do love a good Western. Number 2 for me is Manchester by the Sea. This Casey Affleck film. I mean, it is not an easy film to watch. It's not one of those films you just want to pop in on a Friday night. But if you appreciate film, it's a hard watch, man. It's about trauma and death. And, I don't want to get into it too much into the plot. I think you should just check it out. But if you appreciate acting, and this is why we do, me, I'm an actor. I love movies because I love the exploration of the human condition, and superhero movies are fun and they can explore those things too. Right. But like, you need these kinds of movies. We talked about Deer Hunter previously and how hard of a watch that movie is, but it teaches you something about life. And sometimes it's worth popping in a movie that is going to make you feel pretty rotten and terrible. I think it makes us more empathetic people. And this is just a really well done film. Unbelievable performances. Was a bit of an Oscar darling that year. And watch it once, and you may never want to watch it again, but you should definitely see it if you haven't.
As I've gotten older, I still watch these kind of movies, but I really have to be in the mood, and then I don't rewatch them. The Precious or Requiem for a Dream. I think they're important to like appreciating art and growing as a person. But I think as I become older and the world's become more complicated, it just gets gets harder to take these cinematic gut punches. But yeah, this one, I think Michelle Williams is in it as one of our finest actresses. So on a much lighter note, my number one is Shane Black's The Nice Guys. I'm a huge Shane Black fan. He is the reason, probably. I mean, I was already kind of like drifting that way, but he's probably the reason I became a screenwriter. I read the first screenplay I ever read was The Long Kiss Goodnight. And then I read The Last Boy Scout, and I'm like, I want to do this. The Nice Guys is a funny Ryan Gosling, which I think is one of our greatest gifts, and we need more of it. And then Russell Crowe, also just one of our finest actors, but man, he's funny as well. The two of those guys together, there's just like a laugh a minute, but it's also kind of Lebowski-esque, and you just notice new little Easter eggs or little clever things, or little performance marvels every single time you watch it. And it is just insanely rewatchable. It's one of those things where you could put on at any point and you're like, I'm not walking away from this thing, because it's just so funny and fun. And there's never really a down moment with these two guys. You just want to hang out with them. It's like the ultimate hangout movie. So
I haven't seen this one either. So we're gonna have to start picking our years ahead of time, and I'm gonna have you send me the movies that you're gonna put.
I'll tell you how
I can watch them.
I'll tell you how highly I thought of this one. So the New York Times did their top 100 movies of the first 25 years of the century so far. Very cool list, an interactive thing they built. Go check it out if you want to like get lost in cinema for an hour. But most of my 10 were like Parasite, No Country for Old Men, City of God, stuff like that. But my one like big curveball was The Nice Guys, just because I think it is a perfect neo-noir comedy that like you can't do it any better than that. So high praise.
Yeah, and a really interesting cast. You got Margaret Qualley in there, who's been in a ton of really good movies. She just did The Substance. She was in The Leftovers, the HBO show, which another tough watch. That's one of my all-time favorite TV shows. It wasn't for everybody, but it's good. Did you ever watch The Leftovers?
I didn't. It's on my list to eventually get to. But yeah, she's Andie MacDowell's daughter. And she's, the first time I noticed her, a lot of people had told me like she was in this, but was Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. So
yeah, that's right. She's in that, and she's really good, man. And I'll tell you another actress that's in The Leftovers that makes it worth checking out, who's also in a Marvel movie.
Carrie Coon.
It's one of my favorite. Carrie Coon, man, one of my favorites. She's a Chicago actress. Has done work at Steppenwolf. The funny thing about oh God, I can't spit out her name right now, so maybe I'm not going to tell the story. I'll come back to it if I remind it. But Carrie Coon's character in Avengers reminds me of another actress, and it is Jane Lynch. Google Carrie Coon's character.
From like 40-Year-Old Virgin and Party Down, Jane Lynch. Yeah.
Look at her, right?
Tall blonde.
But just look at her in Avengers. Okay, Carrie Coon does not remind me of Jane Lynch, but look at Carrie Coon's character from Avengers with all the makeup on and stuff. She looks like she's being played by Jane Lynch. That character.
I think it's CGI, isn't it?
I don't think she's CGI.
That's
practical.
You know the interesting thing about that? So Carrie Coon is married to Tracy Letts. And Tracy Letts is an actor. He's a playwright. He's a screenwriter. You guys, if you've seen Ford versus Ferrari, he plays the Ford, whatever Ford that was running the car company at that point. But he said, I heard him on a podcast, they didn't even watch the Avengers movies. She just took the check, and like they just went on doing their art, and I just thought that was kind of hilarious. Like, she's in Avengers and just like, not my thing.
Yeah. Yeah, she's fantastic. Okay, number one for me here is Rogue One, a Star Wars story. They bungled so many of these later Star Wars movies, and for me, Rogue One, I like the continuation of these stories. I liked Solo. I thought they did a nice job with that. I thought that was fun. I like the world building stuff. I want more Harry Potter. Like I want a Marauders, Harry Potter series or movie. I like filling in the gaps in world building. I think it's really fun. And Rogue One, if you've never seen it, is about the crew that steals the plans for the Death Star, and it takes place just before the beginning of Episode 4. And it's not just gimmicky. Like it sounds like a big time gimmick, right? And the end of the movie, you could call it gimmicky. I think it's awesome. It's a good payoff, but it's the movie's good. The story is good. It's its own thing. It's connected to the larger story, but it's its own thing, and it's done really well. And the characters make sense, and it's executed very well. Whereas like some of the other ones, like Last Jedi and stuff, they're trying to do callbacks to and then we want to make our change and make it all right. It just pissed everybody off. And it's there's a way to fill in these gaps in a really interesting way. Like Game of Thrones, I'd love to see Robert's Rebellion. Show me the war between Ned Stark and Robert and the Mad King. Like I want to see that stuff. And people will say, well, you know what happened, so why would we do that? It's like, no, I want to see how it plays out. You could tell me new stories I don't know about by filling in those gaps this way. Anyway, Rogue One, it's great. It's a terrific film. And if they're going to do more Star Wars stuff, that's the way that they should approach it.
And I think Andor has obviously has built upon what they did in Rogue One. But the reason I love Rogue One, it proves that these blockbusters, bigger is not always better. It's actually a really intimate story. And even though they take something that is directly related to, I think this is brilliant. It's directly related to Leia and Obi-Wan and Luke and Han and all of them, but they don't use any of them. And so it doesn't feel so sacred that everyone's uptight about things getting stepped on. And it can just be its own little story. And then also the use of practical effects would be the second thing. Like I think that both the prequels and these later Star Wars movies just don't look enough like the original trilogy, which they just, you don't need all the CGI with everything they could have pulled off back then. And then my man Donnie Yen, the blind dude that can use the Force, you know who he is?
Yeah.
The greatest. So,
but yeah.
Rogue One.
It's a terrific film. All right, we did it. We didn't go an hour and a half, and we even started a few minutes late. So we're close to pulling this off in an hour. I know you've got more screenwriting to do, so we're gonna get out of here. But listen, if you stuck around this long, stick around after we sign off here, because I had a lot of jokes about Kevin Keitzman that I just couldn't get to them all. So as we're on our way out here, here are all of the unused Kevin Keitzman jokes, a little mashup for you. Make sure to not listen to that guy's show, and we'll see you guys tomorrow on Adam's show for Freaky Friday, and next week with our regular set of shows here on the Arrowhead Addict podcast. Shout out to producer Richard for all his help with me today and all this Keitzman crap. And we'll see you guys next week. But until then, as always, go Chiefs. Former 810 radio host Kevin Keitzman, seen here just before asking to speak to the manager of the wheat field, is facing backlash.
Just went in. The manager of the wheat
radio
field.
host Kevin Keitzman, caught here seconds before posting a 1,000-word Facebook rant that ends with "Wake up, sheeple," is facing backlash. Former 810 radio host Kevin Keitzman, seen here just after crapping his pants, is facing backlash. Former 810 radio host Kevin Keitzman, seen here watching a group of children get blown away in a bouncy house, is facing backlash. Former 810 radio host Kevin Keitzman, seen here after farting so loud it set off his home security system, is facing backlash. Former 810 radio host Kevin Keitzman, seen here after yelling, "Speak English," at a QR code, is facing backlash. Former A10 radio host Kevin Keitzman, seen here explaining how Bill Gates is controlling the weather to give you cancer, is facing backlash. Former 810 radio host Kevin Keitzman, seen here clipping his toenails on an airplane, is facing backlash. Former 810 radio host Kevin Keitzman, seen here arguing that Voldemort was actually the good guy, is facing backlash. Former 810 radio host Kevin Keitzman, seen here watching a child's balloon float away, is facing backlash. Former 810 radio host Kevin Keitzman, seen here after refusing to pull over for an ambulance because he got there first, is facing backlash.